I am providing a review of what was intended to be covered during our week 3 Zoom session last Thursday. I had only one student attend, so we had more of a conversation related to our upcoming paper, my traveling to Columbus, Ohio to see the murals that are surrounding the State House in response to the current Black Lives Matter initiative, as well as some just common conversations around discrimination and some lived experiences. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and discuss a little bit, and this primarily is included already in the component you just finished, but pieces that I wanted to emphasize as important for you to take and move forward, both in the quiz capacity, but then also just as a large content that is meaningful and intentful of our course. So I have outlined here our prejudice and discrimination definitions as illustrated in our text accompanying the course. Below that, I have the working definition that I like to use for implicit bias, and this is adapted and taken from the Kirwan Institute with Ohio State. And I think as we are learning, you have just reviewed and I've read through most of the discussions that you've reflected in regards to the IAT testing. We talk about implicit bias as something in a little bit common term nowadays, and I think it's important to take pause to look a little bit deeper about what that means. So that's where I want to sit for a moment and visit. When we talk about implicit bias, we're talking about our attitudes and stereotypes that really shape our worldview, and the way that we interface with our daily transgressions and in a very just a subconscious manner or unconscious manner. Important things that I want everyone to keep in mind when we're talking about implicit bias. These are things that aren't necessarily favorable or non-favorable or unfavorable. These are things that they are what they are, and that these are also things that are triggered within us in a very involuntary manner, very autonomic. Our brains are structurally designed to compartmentalize and to shift and categorize things within our neural network structure, and this is what our brain is doing at times, and we're able to take into consideration these things are sometimes without our awareness or our control at all, and they also are rooted deep within our experiences and in our subconscious in a place that we may not know where our biases are coming from. So those are things that implicit biases can be. Things that I think are most important to remember: the characteristics of implicit biases. One, they're pervasive, they're across everything that we do. They are related distinctly to our mental constructs and the way that we shape and have had our worldview develop since we are in an infantile state. Just because we have a bias for or against something, again, not thinking of that in a favorable or unfavorable manner, it just is what it is. These biases, and maybe you've experienced this in doing the IAT testing, is they don't necessarily align with what our declared beliefs are. These, again, are our reactions, and if we have been in experiences where we're working very hard to shape our actions and following what our beliefs are, these are things that are malleable and that can change. Oftentimes, our biases are related to and favor our own subgroup or in-group of collection of which we identify, but that's something that can or cannot be true, but those, again, are just key characteristics and components. Again, these are taken from the Kirwan Institute, and what I think I'll do is add a link to the Kirwan Institute for anyone that wants to take a further look at this and this working definition and explore a little bit more. I think that there may be a link to that within the course module, but just so that everything's handy and just one click away, I'll put that together. I will also put together a attachment of the PDF of this as an example of your paper. One thing I wanted to just briefly illustrate and remind everyone that you have in the course is recommendations of do's and don'ts for bystander intervention. I would say that this is something that's important to review. Also take into consideration what's your personal comfort level, and know that you want to shape your behaviors and attitudes of how you intervene and assist in that manner. I have this conversation oftentimes with little ones or high schoolers in the public school setting about, if we see something, we say something, but what is it that is within the scope of our comfort to do that in a manner that we can assist another person and still feel safe for ourselves, whether that be a physical or social emotional safety. So this is something for you to refer back to. We'll go over the paper now just as an overview. Again, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. You'll have this to look at individually as an attachment. For anyone that's familiar with APA, some of this might be a little bit redundant or repetitive, but this is a general ed class that you're able to apply to multiple disciplines. And if you're not experienced to APA, or if you are and need reminders, I find that this is helpful for students. In APA, we want to have a working cover page that has the title and narrative of what the assignment is. So this is our news source comparison utilizing these 3 news sources. You might choose a different worldview outside of the BBC. This is just the news source that I use when I think of another country. You're going to put the title of what it is that you've looked up and the date, our course, and the university of which we are participating in. This is actually a Newark campus course. I've taught this class in a couple different areas, so I've modified this a little bit so that it's more applicable to your class. Your name will go here. The running header attaches to the top left slide here, and your running header will be stated as this, and your last name here. Page number does start on the first page in this type of format. So this is a side-by-side view. Within the context of your paper, this is a little bit different than a traditional APA work. What I recommend students doing is putting a subheader here of the news articles to be compared for the date, and then put each individual article with the link functionally here. Below that, then I would recommend putting another subheader and then clearly describe the event from a research-specific standard. You're not going to be putting your analysis of the article, just what is it that the key components that this was covered, and illustrate and emphasize the Rubin and Babby work from the course module 1 course readings in your introduction. You'll fully describe each one of the contexts of the concepts in the context of the article as applied to the Rubin and Babby article as well as the news article that you're reviewing. So you'll have those broken down into each individual category, and then you will discuss the bias in the reports. And that's just, again, factual. This bias may lend us to feel this thing. And then the implications for the consumers can be talked about in another piece, and then just add an overview and closing paragraph in a scholarly manner. So these are just recommendations of how I find it would be most easy for a reader to go through and look at your work. Your links need to be functioning and working here. Just because you have your articles listed here does not mean you should not include them here. You want all of your resources to be included here, your articles, the Rubin and Babby work, and you'll need to have this put in APA standard. So if you use the citations within your text, this is just an additional reminder to put that there. If you have any questions in regards to this, the Purdue OWL website has an excellent resource available for you to use too. I'll send that PDF as an attachment. Other little piece that I wanted to just throw out there before I go over our video part of the slideshow is this resource that I have found that is connected with Girl Trek, which is an organization of Black women that have decided to collaborate themselves together to help support positivity and raise one another up. This is just a PDF that I've adapted and taken from this website that I feel does a wonderful job encouraging self-care acts and include both the physical aspect of, I like that it has it broken down into sweat in just 30 minutes of something that helps increase and raise your metabolism. It talks about sanity, things that help balance us and keep us emotionally regulated. Soul, what do you do to feed yourself? And things that bring us joy. So these are just 100 little tidbits that can help shape and create self-care patterns for you. So I will include that as well. The other piece that I'm going to show as the last part of the presentation for this, and I'm going to attach this, I think, in a different video just as a slideshow of my experience traveling to Columbus, Ohio on the 25th, and what that looked like. A dear friend of mine and her daughter decided to go downtown. We both felt comfortably safe in our social distancing and were protected, and just had heartfelt conversation about experiences of discrimination she has felt in her lifetime, and as recently as her son being profiled and pulled over for a stop and frisk in a suburb of Columbus, and just makes the experience very real for me and puts my heart in a place of wanting to be an ally more than ever. I've always been, but I just, this was an important, meaningful event, and I hope that anyone that has an opportunity might travel there and look at what has been put as a place of art around our capital and take some joy away from it. I'll add this separately, and anyone that would like to ask me questions as a follow-up later, please feel free. I hope that this has all been helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and good luck on your paper that's due Saturday.